Well, let's move on, because what happens in Kenya does influence the entire region. Have a look at this just as we consider it. It is the most developed country in East Africa for a start. If there is unrest, then it could impact the economies of its neighbours. Think about trade with Uganda, Tanzania, that could be hit. As for security, you've got another neighbour, Somalia, which is home to the armed group Al-Shabaab, of course, which has launched attacks in Kenya, and Nairobi has sent forces across the border to fight the group. So, short story, what happens here in Kenya does really matter for the region and for the country. So we're going to talk more about that and the vote itself with Marietje Schaake, who is the chief observer from the European Union's election observation mission, and it's a pleasure to have you with us, Marietje. Just give us, first of all, exactly what the EU is saying after the vote, after the observation. Are you absolutely content with how the vote has passed off?
Well, let me be clear that on behalf of my 130-strong observer team, we've only made a preliminary statement today reflecting on what we've been able to observe so far. And I think it's very clear also in Kenya that there's the campaign process, election day, which is very important for people. But of course, after the elections, and that's the process that we're observing now, a lot is still happening. So we are here continuing our work to impartially and independently observe what goes on. And only after a few months we will make a very comprehensive and final report on how the electoral process in Kenya 2017 took place at all.
Okay, that's good to get that cleared up then. What about what's happening immediately though, these claims about hacking and the like? Do you look into those directly?
Well, these are very serious claims that should be investigated, but not by us. We are an impartial and independent observer mission. We can look at how the competent Kenyan authorities deal with cases that are brought before them, how the IEBC, the Electoral Commission, deals with such claims, or how the courts eventually would deal with cases about irregularities or disputing the outcome of the elections. I believe it is essential that the process of Kenyans for Kenyans, this electoral process, gets followed through according to the rule of law here and through the competent institutions that Kenya has. And we will then look at how they are dealing with these important claims.
Again, what about the conduct of the candidates? Again, maybe it's not something which you involve yourself in directly, but do you have, if I can say, recommendations for the candidates about observing the rule of law? We've got Raila Odinga's camp claiming he should just be made the president right now. That's clearly not how this whole system works. Well, actually, what do you say? Oh, go ahead.
Actually, the observing of the conduct of candidates is exactly what a mission like ours is doing. So during campaign rallies, we looked at whether hate speech was uttered or whether state funds or resources were inappropriately dedicated to political campaigns. And now, and I've said this before and I'm happy to say it again, I think it is essential that all candidates give the Electoral Commission the time to finish the tallying process, which is ongoing, and to see how that goes. In the meantime, it is important to speak to their bases, to call for calm, restraint, and to really show that kind of leadership that both top candidates and many of those standing for office enjoy a very large following and a great status among Kenyans. It is important that they use this responsibility and show leadership in the interest of the country, because that is what is needed. And so do you,
so you made the point that you look into all of this before the vote. Do you carry on now, as the point I was making, that you've got the opposition making big claims already? You don't want that sort of firing up any base and leading to any unrest or anything like that. Do you keep on their case now?
So a situation in which violence would erupt is really a losing situation for everybody. Elections should never be a matter of life and death. And so indeed, it's an ongoing responsibility of every leader in this country, community leader, national leader, candidate of a political party, to display that leadership, to take that responsibility, and to urge people to be calm and restrained at this moment in time and going forward, awaiting the official results of this election.
Marietje Schaake from the European Union's election observation mission. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.